Rachel,
Brian.
oh my goodness. Yes, we work together, but I can't talk to you often enough. You have
I
just this
know.
wonderful bubbly energy and you're just as ADHD as me. So we can just bounce all over the place and have all kinds of fun.
Definitely.
So generally speaking, or maybe even specifically speaking, what you been up to?
Oh my gosh, I've been doing a lot of everything basically. A lot of like upside down stuff because I spend a lot of my time doing aerial. Also
Now,
a lot of
now
parenting.
help me understand because I see the pictures. You like hang from these like big hula hoops to build your
Effectively.
core. And
Effectively,
we
like
have we have friends that have embraced the pole
Mhm.
as a way of strengthening themselves. And I see the kind of things they do on the pole. And I think, yes, maybe if I were a trapeze artist in the circus, I could do these things. But it's impressive how they're able to hold their bodies, and you can tell they got major core strength, which I do not. And you work like in a big hula hoop in order to do that, right?
Yeah, so that's how I started. Basically, imagine like a huge steel hula hoop. A lot of people don't realize that it is steel. And yeah,
I did
that's
not realize
suspended.
that. Sounds dangerous.
I mean, that's why when it hit me in the head a few months ago, I got concussion because it's so heavy. So yeah, it like hangs from the ceiling and you just do pretty shapes around it. You move your body around this apparatus and sometimes it's dynamic things, sometimes it's static things. Like you can be doing it for like spinning, not spinning. It's like got a huge variety. And I've now also I started off doing that and I've now branched and I do fabrics. So like bed sheets hanging from the ceiling that I climb up and again wrap myself up into make different pretty shapes. And chains.
Audition for Cirque du Soleil at some point?
I mean, no, because I'm not flexible enough yet, but it is really it's been really, really good for me to do something that gets me out of the house as I work for myself and I am a mum and I am a military wife. So we move around and we don't have that many like friends and family near us. So it's been really good for me to get out of the house and go to a separate place and do something that's moving my body that doesn't feel like it, that is basically play. It is play is very important to me. And so the opportunity to be able to do that for so many hours a week is incredible.
Wow, you just rattled off like a brochure worthy list of bullet points of all the things you get from this.
It really is.
And it just reminds me, we've got so much in common as far as that goes, because I work from my bed most of the time, keep my back pain managed. And usually when I get out, it's because my wife kidnapped me. I had her on some errands, want to come in? Hey, you want to go on a lunch date? And I got to hand it to her. I would probably be pretty pulled up because I'm also an introvert and easily overwhelmed by all the noises of the public. So I'd be pretty much a hermit, even though I can get giggly and stuff like that when we're talking one to one. If I had to people too much, it would be too much. So I really owe it to her a lot for continuing to pull me out of my inertia and get me out the door. And when you
100%.
rattle off those benefits, those are very human. You need a variety of locations and scenery and different kinds of people and different colors, and we need that variety. It keeps our mind interested, it keeps it alive. And and I don't know how you are with the different sensory stuff, but my proprioception or my sense of where my body is in space, my vestibular, or my sense of movement is really whacked up. So if I did all this hanging from hoops and stuff that you do, the room would spin like nobody's business. And I would just have to say, which way is down again?
There is a good element of that. It is a really common meme of as soon as you go upside down and the instructor says move your left hand, you're like, what is a hand? Like which way is left? You completely lose all sort of sense of that.
I know
But
what left is concept, but
yeah,
applying it just is beyond me right now.
so we do a lot of like, so thankfully I've only got a tattoo on one arm. So I get told the tattoo arm, move that arm. I'm like, okay, I know which one that is.
Brilliant idea. I need an L on one hand and the R on the other.
It really, really helps when like you're in these sorts of situations. But popping back to like that proprioception thing, my proprioception used to be horrendous, but it is amazing how much it has improved ever since doing all of this sort of stuff. I used to break my toe about every 3 months, like break a different toe, like because I would walk into
At least you're
something.
consistent.
Yeah, it was really reliable. And I haven't now in a year and a half, which is the amount of time that I've been doing aerial for.
Wow. I am not hula hooping enough.
It, it's it is amazing how much it teaches you. I think I read something online that if you are neurodivergent, your brain can interpret the signals differently to most people, which is why so many of us are
Very much
clumsy.
so. Yeah.
Um, and but when you practice it and you repeatedly go through the motions, your brain can begin to learn it. And so as I came from not really moving my body intentionally, and if I did, it was always very simple movements, to doing these complex things, it's helped my brain to actually learn where am I in space. I always used to say, because I'm very tall, which is a fact today for most people, I'm
Yeah.
6 foot
You're
tall.
you're 6 foot, which is unusual for women.
Yeah, and I
If,
always
if
used to
we ever
say that.
do, if you ever do pick up basketball, you are going in on my behalf because I wouldn't be able to do much of anything.
Yes, definitely. But yes, I always used to say that I was a 5'6" person in a 6 foot body. So I just had no idea where the ends of my limbs were, in space.
Just
Um,
keep going.
yeah, it just, I think my brain was like, okay, you're 5'6", this is a reasonable height, and then my body went, no, you're having more height. So yeah, it's quite funny, but yeah, it's fantastic for all of those sorts of elements. And
You have really got me intrigued now because I have the Ehlers Danlos, so I'm super bendy to the point where I can barely walk well because of the pain and just basically being a drunk, sailor on land. And one of my challenges has been my proprioception. And you telling me that is very, very intriguing because my wife got us a gym membership and they have all kinds of different things there to exercise on. And I really got to do more about getting into my center, which really seems like is the case with what you're doing. Gets you into your body, gets you into your center of gravity, strengthens that all up so your body has a better sense of where center is.
Oh, 100%. It's another common sort of theme that we say is you can't be thinking about anything else, because if you let go, you will fall.
Wow,
So
mindfulness work too.
100% it's like meditation, because you have to just be concentrating on what your body is doing. Like, okay, I'm holding on here. Now I'm going to move this arm over there and then grab with that hand, and then I can move this hand to around here. And it meditation without actually having to try and meditate. It's the perfect meditation for ADHD people because you're not realizing it.
Well, not only that, and you just kind of hit on something. And I read this so often and I hear this from people, and I just want to give them a hug or just go, "Urgh," when they say, I can't do meditation. I've tried, I just can't do it. I just can't sit still. Well, you just demonstrated meditation, which is essentially prolonged mindfulness practice. You just demonstrated that you can be active and do this. So people with ADHD say, oh, I can't sit still. Good, don't. Find a posture. There are different kinds of stand on one foot for a while, do a plank. There are ways you can be active, engage your muscles, and be present. And that
100%.
is really the key because people in general can benefit from being present because it's where life is happening. Show me some future. I'll wait. That's
Definitely.
all imagination. But man, being able to be active, I imagine athletes are very present with what they're doing. Shooting a hoop, I can't imagine that you're putting together your grocery list while you're doing
Exactly.
that layup during a finals game, right?
This is the thing, and I think because when we become adults, we quite often stop playing. The only adults that tend to play basketball are the athletes, the only ones that tend to, everybody seems to only then, when you hit adulthood, it has to be for a purpose. it can't just be for play. It can't just be for the fun of it. You have to be, oh, well, I'm going to go and do this to try and compete on a team, or I have to do this to earn money. You can just do it for the fun of it.
There's one thing I remember John Cleese did this wonderful speech. I got a video excerpt of it saved on YouTube somewhere. But he said it was all on play, the importance of play, even in a corporate realm. He said one of the best things about play is you can make no mistakes. Play is just about experimentation. And if you can do that, that just gave me so much permission.
Yes, I
And
cannot
it,
agree harder.
you know me well enough to know that I'm a big kid. I'm goofy, I'm silly, I'm very playful. I've also got the, the deep, serious side, but they're all parts of the same person. It's not that one is more me than the other. What tends to be more me, or so I think, is the stuff I put out there for the audience. One of the reasons why I don't say I'm autistic is because I'm not only putting that out there. My humor isn't autistic. My compassion isn't autistic. So I'm not going to say it all is, but it all does make up this human called Brian. And one of the best things about my wife is that we often go out on dates just to be silly together,
I love
and
that.
people find us entertaining. But that playfulness helps keep me curious. Because when you're playing, you're just like saying, okay, I'm going to use my imagination right now to tell myself, oh, if I put this truck and these trucks together, I can pretend that they're racing each other, or they had an accident and now the fire truck needs to come. I did a lot of that stuff. A lot of my play had heroes. And I imagine that's because I always felt like the odd man out, or the one at the bottom of the heap. And I just needed a hero. This is just coming to me now. Thank you, doctor. I feel completely healed. I can go on with my life.
I love these realizations that just ping to you in random moments.
Well, and that's one of the best things of talking to people that you can feel comfortable with. You and I have so much in common. I've learned to trust you. I realize I can be vulnerable to a certain degree without you like leaving the room and closing the door and saying I can't handle all this stuff. It's way too dark.
'Cause we all
Yeah,
have that sort of aspect of ourselves, though, don't we?
yeah. I mean, I watch way too many detective shows, and one thing I hear repeatedly is even the nicest person is capable of horrible things under the right circumstances. So I'm very careful about the circumstances I put myself into.
Now that is a motto to live your life by. Yes.
I don't want to say, "Hey, sons, when you coming to visit me in prison here? It's been a while, you know. And
Yeah,
I'm
I
good
love
for
that.
you. You should stop by."
Oh my gosh, amazing.
I, yeah, I don't want to tangent too much. I came up with this funny joke with my wife the other day. I can share it with you if you want me to. It was
Oh, yes,
hilarious.
please.
Well, we were on our way home from a date, and I'm always joking with her about how I can't afford her bail, as she talks, because she was raised with four brothers. So the rough and tumble, the tomboy kind of thing is just really well demonstrated in her. And she talks about sometimes, or man, I wish I could just do this to that person. I wish she's not seriously, she's just venting. And it came up that, hey, maybe you could have a side gig. I said, yeah, I need a side gig just to afford your bail. And then I couldn't think of the business, but I thought of the tagline. I said, okay, we'll have this business, Brian's blah, 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 where we get Kathy out of jail. And then I said, oh, could you imagine the commercial? Hey there, everybody. We're having a sale because we got to get Kathy out of jail. Stop on by today. And that was a joke right there.
100%, that could be a marketing strategy, just with a marketing hat on.
Yeah, we were just in tears because we just kept going with it. And it's silly moments like that that are just, there are no real rules to it. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're not bumping up against imposter syndrome. You're just experimenting.
Too many of us lose our curiosity as we get older. And it's one of the saddest things that I see is all of these sort of very grey adults, often mums, because we are often the ones that take on the brunt of like childcare and all of that sort of stuff. And they just become so grey. I think that's like the easiest way to describe it.
There's too much concern with being right.
Hmm.
Am I doing this right as a mom? Oh, did I do the right thing? You're checking with this mom or this professional. Oh, I just wanted to run something by and make sure that I'm doing it right. And we don't realize what we're doing is one big experiment. Let's try this, see if I get the result I'm looking for. If not, I apologize and we try it again.
Which is effectively kind of what play is. A lot of play, particularly in young children, is experimentation. Like, oh, if I drop my toy car from here, will it go fast? Ah, okay, it went really fast. Let's see if I now drop it from up here, is it going to go even faster? If I touch that, what will that feel like?
It's one way we explore the possibilities, hopefully in a safe way, because you're in a sandbox or you're on a playground. You're not on the middle of a highway. Hey, let me see if I can dodge a truck easier than I dodge a car. Pull me out of the way, mom, if it seems treacherous.
I mean, to be fair, that is my general parenting philosophy is if it's not going to mean that you have to go to A&E, ER, then we're all good. We're all good.
Is there blood, stitches, or traction involved? No? Okay, good. Go for it.
Yeah. Doesn't matter if you fall over and bump your head and get an egg on your head, like that'll be fine, you'll heal.
Yeah, like people that want to draw or learn to draw, or my youngest right now is really getting into writing. And every time he sits down, he seems to think it's got to be punctuated correctly with perfect grammar. Thank you, public school. And he doesn't know that he can brain dump and it can be an absolute mess. And then he can make something from the mess. Think about people that do ice sculptures or make incredible sandcastles. They started with just stuff, the raw material, and they shaped it into something. Okay, we all start with the raw material. So to think it has to be perfect, no, you can paint and repaint and paint over and remove something and reshape it. And life is the same way. Life is a blank canvas. We have all this raw material and we can make and remake.
I'm
Oh,
on I'm on Rachel version 4.0 right now, and I it keeps evolving and I love it. Every time it's like, okay, this is a new version of me and I am here for this. Because if I was still the same me as I was when I was 12, oh my gosh, no. That would not be a functioning adult.
one of the metaphors I stumbled upon is each of my years as a chapter of a book. And the cool thing about a book is you can remove characters, introduce new characters, change the plot line. You're the author, mix it up.
Hmm. Yeah, everybody needs a good
Don't
plot
do
twist.
something that's going to get you killed.
Then the book's over.
Yeah, yeah, and there could be so much story left untold.
Exactly. Exactly. You've got to introduce a good plot twist every now and again, otherwise it gets boring.
Oh, and some of those plot twists absolutely suck. But you got to make use of them.
Yeah,
Because it's the story. Now,
exactly.
that makes me curious because you and I are still getting to learn each other, even though I pay you money every month to do things for me. What kind of makes you you? I mean, were there pivotal events or realizations where you said, ah, and a certain value or truth was unlocked and it now kind of follows you?
Ooh, that's a really deep question. So I
Should I
think
ask something more superficial? What's your favorite color?
favorite color is blue. Um, there was a moment, it was basically just before the pandemic that I had a huge shift. And it was the moment when I decided to stop trying to be the person who I thought I should be and start trying to be myself.
You identified as should. Those things
Yes,
are nasty.
for years. I was waiting for that moment when I was going to feel like it was time to always wear the high heels, always have the perfect hair, do the makeup, have a handbag. Like I was waiting to become like a proper woman.
Sounds stressful.
It was. I don't recommend it as like a life strategy. And it was just before the pandemic. And I think becoming a mother really helped with this because it was, as soon as you become a parent, most parents then are like, well, actually, you begin to almost reparent yourself.
Oh yeah, when you realize all the things you don't know, all the things that were done that hopefully you realize were well intended, but executed poorly. Now, I'm not talking about abusive parents. That's a totally different dimension. But parents you can tell are well-meaning. Did you have those parents by chance, or were they very different?
Unfortunately, my parents fell into the abusive category. But we will, so it was a lot
That's
of
for another
unlearning.
conversation. I'm very sorry you had to deal with that.
It's it helped to lead to this moment of clarity of I need to stop trying to be the person they wanted me to be and to actually become myself truly. And it was a massive cascade of events that led to starting my business, getting more piercings, getting a tattoo, just being truly myself.
All of this happened just before COVID?
Like, as in, we're talking like 2 months before COVID.
Wow. Was there
Mm.
an impetus to this? One
Um,
single thing that just kind of woke you up.
I went to therapy.
I'm a believer.
Yeah,
I
it
got a master's in social work, and I've had my own therapist over the years because even with everything you know from reading and everything, you have your own blind spots, if for no other reason than to protect you from the hurt.
Well, I went to therapy for a completely different reason. I went to because I was a stay-at-home mum, so I went to help me to come to terms with being a stay-at-home mum and came out with a completely different solution, completely different problems that were identified. It was like that epitome of like, this is what I thought I needed. Actually, I needed this instead, and this has been incredible.
It's all connected.
Hmm.
One metaphor I use a lot is the metaphor of the dominoes. Let's say you got 50 dominoes, and the one at the end is like the shift, or it signifies the epiphany. If you move the one that's third from the end, yeah, a couple things are going to move, but there's all this stuff remaining. But if you knock down the one second from the front, all these things fall. So when you went in, you started talking about one thing, but it was connected. It was like at the front, it was connected to all these other dominoes. So all this stuff fell as soon as you got that realization. And don't you love it when that happens?
I've so much love for that therapist because like she unlocked so much. Yeah, like it's helped me. I always used to really struggle making connections with other people, and struggled making friends. I struggled keeping friends because I wasn't being my true self. Ever since actually being myself, I've made so many friends. It's so lovely.
And I can't tell you how thrilled I am to know you. Just wonderful every time. Now, do you have any relationship with your parents?
Not anymore, no.
Okay. Because I was going to ask, how do they deal with this surrender of people pleasing?
Yeah, no, they didn't. Which is again part of the whole cascade of events, and it's kind of like removing those sorts of influences from my life. So yeah, when we talked about like the chapters in the book and some characters leave, and it's like, okay, that chapter is very much like done now, and this is now my found family, my chosen family, all of the people that celebrate me for being who I am, and I can just be my true self, the goofy self, the having fun, expressing myself like how I am, and it's incredible.
And people don't realize that being yourself is ongoing work.
Mm. Oh,
It
yeah.
isn't a place you arrive and just say, "Oh, I'm here, waiting for you to catch up, losers." That's not how you do it. you maybe have an epiphany, or you gradually find your way to it and one day say, hey, I don't react to this the same way I used to. I must have learned something, because there's always these elements in society that are throwing this crap on you saying, oh, you're not good enough. You got to buy this thing. Or, hey, have you joined this yet? This is where all your friends are. And all of these messages saying, you are left out if you don't do this. They'll say, oh, I got to listen to the new album. I don't want to be abandoned. That's the flippin' message they give you. And if people aren't aware of that, then they're unable to stop and say, I'm going to opt out. I'm not participating in this mind game. And that's pretty much, I don't know for you, for daily, when some of that tries to get in my head, I need to remind myself that I'm not participating, or I might emotionally react. Oh, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. All right, I've just been hijacked by an opinion or a judgment.
It's a constant thing. It's constant having to remind yourself, no, 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 how do you feel about this? Like connect back in with your body instead of constantly living in this like, in the outward world. Like actually you've got to you're in your own body and you're in your own mind for your entire life. You want to make it a happy place. You want to make it as comfortable of a place as you can.
And a centered and present place. Because the powers that be would like to keep us in reactivity. Because if they could emotionally manipulate us. Hey, this is who you should be pissed off with today. Oh my God. Oh, you're telling me. Let me call so and so. They're pissed off about this too. And let's talk for 90 minutes about how we're pissed off. And then after we're done hanging up, I'm going to blog about how I'm pissed off. And I'm not going to get really much of anything done that moves the needle or improves my life.
Or then you also get told those things, and then it's like, but this is a solution. You just need to pay all of this money for this product that will help with the solution to this problem you didn't actually have. Yeah.
People that thrive on the victim mentality, the desire to be rescued, the desire to be led. And then there's you and I, and a lot of people like that, who come to the realization that, wait a minute, all of these people are just manipulating me for their own ends. And this can be parents too, parents with all of their unresolved stuff. My mom and I became ridiculously codependent. We became friends at some point, which is not friends in a way where she would ask me advice for her own stuff uncomfortably. Mom was very poor with boundaries, was raised by a very abusive dad and a very docile mom. Old school European, came over on the boat in the early 1900s. And she was very immature and underdeveloped in some ways. And that really led to a confusing household growing up. She'd be nice one moment, be blowing up the next. So I never knew where I stood, never knew when I was safe. And I can't remember where I started with this, but that's ADHD for you. But what I came to the realization much later than you, so I'm proud that you discovered it early. I'm a bit of a slow learner. Is I learned that and one of my teachers said this, just because your family's crazy doesn't mean you have to be crazy with them. And those distinctions are like ideas that never popped in my head before, because I was used to being so intertwined in an unhealthy way. And once I started delineating, this is my life, these are my values, and I don't need permission from them.
It's once you have that person that almost like just shows you, just opens that door. Like they don't even need to take you through it. They just need to show you that the door exists. And then you could begin to work on taking yourself through it. And it's a process and it can take, it takes a long time to begin to extract yourself from that way of thinking. But as soon as you know that door is there, that's when you can then really start like catching yourself. And me and my husband do it quite a lot. Sometimes I'll say things and he'll just look at me like, that's not you talking. And I'm like, oh crap, yeah, that's like my mum talking. Like, yeah, sorry. Let's just rewind, let's redo this. But we catch each other, which is really, really nice. Now, sometimes one of us will react and I'll be like, okay, I think that's your trauma reacting, not you. And we can talk about it. So just having that awareness makes such a huge difference.
More and more, because Kath and I have been married for 15 years, just in the recent couple years, she's being more comfortable acknowledging when her mom comes out of her mouth. And before that, it was like a how dare you, and she would blow up. And now, we've kind of gotten to a part where we realize we can hold each other accountable, but it isn't a gotcha. It's a, hey, honey, I just wanted to bring this to your awareness. Like you said with you and your husband, this isn't you. This is some conditioning. This is your mom. And I catch my dad coming out of my mouth a lot in my humor. And then I have to look at it and say, okay, is this me doing this? Is this just because it was modeled for me? Either way is fine. I just like being aware of what's happening in me and what's coming out.
Interesting, isn't it? It's interesting to see where these things come from.
And how many layers we have.
We're
Because
true Shreks, aren't we? We've got many layers to our onions.
we're like a parfait. People love parfaits. Yeah,
Or a
the
trifle if
layers.
you're English.
One thing that I was reminded of, because I'm always talking about the layers and peeling the layers of the onion. And I was reminded this morning of the story of the princess and the pea.
Yes. Yeah.
The the whole point of the story is absolutely absurd, you know.
Yeah.
But when you think about, you can go, she was at the top of the bed, and the pea, I don't know, was like somewhere in the middle or at the bottom or whatever. But even at the top, she felt the pea. So that's like a trauma can be very deep. It happened when you were a little kid, 5 years old, but at 40, you still feel it. Something's not right. Something's bugging you. Because even though the pea is all the way down here, and it may seem small, it has a cumulative effect. Now, I know that I don't need to tell you this, but we're talking about having this realization and learning to be ourselves. Was this easy for you?
Oh, hell no.
Because people say, oh, easy for you, or you had this, or you had this kind of person, or you read that book. I don't care how much you have at your disposal, doing the work still hurts, is still hard.
I was lucky in that it happened for me just before lockdown. So I had a lot of time to do a lot of processing where I wasn't being forced into social situations. So I could almost practice being myself before I had to release myself on the world. Um, so I was lucky, but it wasn't easy. It was still hard. And I admit, like, I imagine for many other people, it would be a lot harder to try and be social whilst you're having these discoveries. Whereas it was just me, my husband, and my son. So I had it a bit easier.
To me, it really boiled down to, well, and of course, it's cumulative. So it's not like it's that one decision,
Mhm.
everything built to it. But when I got sick and tired of feeling that miserable all the time, I just decided, okay, we're going to look at this. I don't care how hard it is. We're going to get through it. And wow, I sobbed. The tears were like running down my face. My face was soaked. I was shaking. I was clenching my teeth so hard. I'm surprised I didn't break some because I was releasing rage. And I was sitting there. I wasn't, running around the house, punching holes in walls. I was just feeling it, letting it come out. And life looked a lot different on the other side of that release. So the hardest parts, I think, are deciding to do it and let myself go through it.
There is power in surrender, which is very much of a lesson that I live my life by. Because yeah, if you'd have fought that, then that would have lasted longer, been harder, maybe bubbled out and actually made you be more physically reactive. Whereas because you just surrendered to it, it just allowed it to pass through. And that is very much in highly charged emotional situations. If it is safe to do so, I'm very much a believer of like, right, just, surrender and let yourself feel the feels, and it will last for a shorter amount of time and you will be able to like pick up and carry on again.
Surrender is very much like going with the current of the river, as opposed to trying to swim upstream all the time because I'm in charge.
Yeah.
Man, our conversations are always so awesome, Rach.
I know, I love it. I absolutely adore talking to you, Brian. Every time I see your face on any call ever, I just get so excited.
Well, the feeling is mutual.
Yay.
Your face is always so bright and chipper, and it's wonderful to hear that we've done similar work because I didn't know this. So now you and I are going to have to talk more.
Yes.
However, I know your day is later because you're in the UK. I'm just starting mine. So I will let you go and talk again sometime. This was so awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me, Brian.
Love you bunches, Rach.